James. For our new and old subscribers, you're all welcome. I love you all. So in today's video, we are going to be learning how to draft a corset. So we are not going to be sewing because I have a video already on sewing of the corset. I'm going to be linking it up here so you can watch that video after you watch this. But before we get into it, if you love my blouse, you love my top, I have a tutorial where I taught on this blouse. I'm going to be linking it up here as well. And then I just went on to throw on this flowered brooch on it, so you can actually purchase this in the market, or you can just take this out, right? So guys, back to what we are doing today. For the things we are going to be needing, we'll be needing a tape, a pencil, an eraser to clean lines, a ruler and or a pattern master, and then definitely you need a calculator. The use of a calculator in this video cannot be overemphasized. So I have my phone. I have a phone that I'm going to be using here, which will double as my calculator, right? And then we'll need our pattern paper, and I've already gone ahead to make part of my basic bodies. So you're just going to be needing your basic bodies plan. If you also do not know how to draft this on your own, I have a video on how to do this. I'm going to be linking it as well, so you can see. If you're new to my channel, you would need to watch those other videos, right? So let's get into drafting. Please bear in mind that in these patterns there was no seam allowance added to the video that I made. That was an oversight, so I went ahead to add to cut out my patterns and placed on fresh pattern paper, and I added half-inch sewing allowance on all my patterns, as you can see. I have my basic bodies, right? I've not marked out my bust point and other things, so let me just run you quickly into what I did here. From here is my regular 3 inches neckline and my 1-inch shoulder slope. Then this is my armhole line, and then my horizontal armhole line is here. This line is also doubles as my chest line, so I'm not going to be needing anything from here upward. I'm just going to be needing from this side downward. So we are going to be concentrating on this side because it's not a shoulder top, unless if you want a yoke on your own blouse, right? So now to make a corset, you will need your chest line. So I have my chest line, right? So I'll just label that chest line. So your chest line is the distance from your shoulder to your chest. Then you also measure from your shoulder to your bust line. I'm labeling this BL. Then from my shoulder to my underbust line, I'm labeling it UBL. Then from my shoulder to my affluent, I'm labeling it AFL. This is my affluent line. And then here is my hem line, which is also my hip line, so I'm labeling it HL. So I didn't find the need to just rule that, so I'm using the hem of the paper as the line, right? So now, so the bust we are working with is 44, right? And then the chest round, that's where the neck of your blouse, the neck round that we are working with is 39, right? And then the underbust that we are working with is 37. Then our affluence, or the waist that we are working with, is 40, right? And then the hip that we are working with is 48, right? So these are our measurements. This is the chest measurement, the bust, the underbust, the affluence, and the hip, right? So now what we want to do is, what makes a corset is the shape that happens, the tightening that happens around the stomach region. That's from the underbust to the affluent and then towards the hip. That is the place that needs to be tightened. but the most important place to tighten on your blouse, on your corset, is your affluence measurement. So you want to get a very very slim affluence. So instead of working with your regular affluence, you would decide now that since I want this to give me figure, what will I do now to give me the figure that I want? So you're going to measure round your affluence. If you have 40, what you want to do is determine how tight you want that place to be. So by the time you wear your corset, what do you want the measurement of your affluence to be? So now you're not going to do one ridiculous reduction on your affluence. So you won't go now from being an affluence of 40 to go and make reduction and say, okay, by the time I wear my corset I want it to be 25. No, that is ridiculous. So you can take out either 2 or 3 or 4 inches out of your affluence point, but I don't advise you go beyond 4 inches. The reason being that if you take more than 4 inches, you're most likely going to choke or you can't breathe. That would really squeeze you too hard. So the maximum you should go is 4 inches and the minimum should be 2 inches. So now I'm going to go to the maximum so that for the sake of those learning you can do less. So I'm going to minus 4 inches from this 40, which will give me, I'm doing minus 4 for my tightening, so it's going to give me 36 inches. So this 36 is going to be my new affluence that I'm going to be working with, but that does not eradicate 40. So on my chest line, I'm coming over here to insert my chest measurements, my bust measurements divide by 4 on my chest line, which is 11 inches, because my bust is 44, divide by 4 is 11 inches. Mind you, I'm working on one half of the body. That's, I'm going to be working on one side of the front and one side of the back. That's what makes it half of my body, right? Then on my affluence line, I'm going to insert my affluence measurement, which is 40. I'm going to do 40 divided by 4, which is 10 inches. And then I'm going to add, now I'm going to do another addition here. On your basic bodies, how many it does, if you want to do like a princess dart, how many inches of that do you use? So for me, I use 2 inches, right? Before my underbust tightening or anything, I do 2 inches. So I'm going to add that 2 inches of that. Then I'm going to do my hip measurements divide by 2, which is 12 inches. So I'm going to mark that 12 inches here, like so, right? So even though I'm eventually going to be cleaning the line, let me just draw this line for you to see, right? So I'm just going to draw that out, connect it like so, right? So this now becomes our basic bodice blouse. Now let me do my armhole curve. I really don't need that, but that will go a long way to help us to understand when we see what the basic blouse looks like really. So this is our basic blouse, right? So now we say our new waistline that we want is 36 inches. So I'm going to be doing some calculations to enable us get what we want, right? Now for my underbust, now I'm going to be dividing it by 2, right? So the new underbust that I want is 36. So I'm going to hit on my calculator 36 divided by 2, right? Is equals to, divide by 2 is equals to 18, right? So now for my hip, right? For my hip is 48. So I'm doing 48 divided by 2. The reason is because I'm working on just the front side of my bodies now. I'm not started working on the back side. So it's the front measurement that I'm working with, so is equals to 24. Then likewise my underbust is, I'm dividing all my measurements by 2. My underbust is 37 divided by 2. I have 18.5, right? Then I have 44 divided by 2, which will be 22. Then I have 39 divided by 2, which is 19.5. So I've divided all my measurements by 2. So I'm going to start my work from my affluence point. So on my affluence I have 18 inches. Now that's you're going to work on your front alone. Any division I'm doing here or addition, I'm just doing it on my front panel. Just like you can see on the affluence point, I added 2 inches of that on the affluence point. So it's like I paid my dart first before even taking the dart on my affluence point, which is 2 inches, right? Now I'm not going to do the same thing at the back, because this dart is only applicable to the front. There is no curve that on the back, such as the bust curve, that I want to accentuate. So there's no need for me to use 2 inches of that, right? So now, because I'm working on only one part of my front bodice, I'm going to further divide all my measurements, the new measurements that I have here. I'm going to further divide them by 2. So for my bust, right, this 19.5, I'm going to divide it by 2 again. So it will give me 9.75, right? So I'll clear that. Then I'll do 22 divided by 2 will be 11. That's for the bust. Then 18.5 divided by 2 will be 9.25. Then 18 divided by 2 will be 9, and then 24 divided by 2 will now eventually give me 12. So this will be my new measurements that I'm going to be working with. Now on my affluence point, I'm going to pick the new affluence, which is 9 inches here. That's my affluence that I want to work with is 36, right? So automatically I've divided 36 by 4 because I'm working on just one side of my front body, so which is the quarter body. So I have 9 inches. Now I'm going to measure the difference that I have here on these quarter bodies. If I was done drafting, I'm supposed to be having 9 inches here, right? But I'm at this point, I have about 11.7 inches, right? 11.7 instead of 9. So which means I'm going to do 11.7 minus 9 inches so that I will know the difference that I'm going to be tightening, right? So 11.7 minus 9 is going to 11.7 minus 9 is giving me 2.7. So now when you get that, you're going to determine how many style lines do you want to see in your front. So for this one, I want 5 style lines, which are eventually going to be 6 panels at the front of my blouse. So I have 1 style line here, then I'll divide the remaining bodies into 2. I'm not going to be using my regular bust pan here. So I'm going to divide, when I measure it here, I have 11.7, right? I'll divide it by 3. So that divide by 3 is equals to 3.9. So I know it's 3.9 that I have here. So I'm going to spread 3.9 across here. I'm marking 3.9 from here. Then I'm marking 3.9 also here. This will help me to know where my style lines are going to be. This is, sorry, that's my underbust. Is on my affluence that I'm going to do that. on my affluence point I have 12 inches, right? So I'm going to clear 12 inches, divide by 3 is 4 inches. So I have 4, I'm marking 4 here, then I'm marking 4 here as well, right? Ignore that line that we initially were working on. It was actually the affluence, the underbust, not the affluence. This is our affluence line. So we have this point and this point for our style lines. Now we'll do 12, right? We are going to calculate 12, right? 12 minus 9, we have 3 inches. So sorry, that initial measurement that I say 2.7 is not 2.7, because what we are working with is 12. So 11 is 12 minus 9, which is 3, right? So we are going to be tightening our front, just our front alone, by 3 inches, right? So now when you're tightening this side, this point that we marked here is closer to the bust area. So this side will carry, mind you, we are going to be doing another tightening around this line. This is our starting point. So this side will carry most of the darts, and then this side will carry a larger dart compared to what we have here, right? Because this side is considered to be on fold, even though we are not going to cut it on fold, but we have one leg of the dart will be here, the other leg of the dart will be on the other panel. That's when we are cutting it eventually. So now this is what we are going to do. Since we have 3 inches to tighten on the underbust, we are going to take from this side, I'm taking 3/4 of an inch here, which is 0.75. So I'm taking it from this my line here inward, so that it will give my blouse a better shape. So I'm going to restructure that line like so, right? Sorry. So this is it. I'll restructure this like so. So this is one dart. I'm going to be cancelling my darts anytime I make a dart, so that you would understand what I'm doing. So I'm just going ahead to cancel this one, so that you know that we are done with this area, right? Now, so out of 3 inches we've taken out 0.75. So we are going to calculate 3 minus 0.75. we are now left with 2.25 to tighten. From here to here we are left with 2.25, right? So now we are going to measure this side again. Sorry. So at this point I have 11.25, right? So I'm going to divide 11.25 divide by 3 style lines again. It will give me 3.75. So I'm going to clean these initial points that I have here. Then I'm going to mark 3.75. Sorry that the entire process is looking like it's confusing, but don't worry, just pay attention and you'll be able to do that. 3.75 here. So these are my new points where I'm going to be making my style lines, right? So now on this side, I said this side is closer to the bust area, so it's going to carry more darts, right? So out of 2.25 darts, I'm going to use 1.25 here on this side. Then I'll use 1.25 here, then I'll use 0.75 here, and use 0.25 here. Let me go over that again, because this area is closer to our bust point, and it carries the larger side of the bust on this side, the area. So we want more curve on this side, right? So we have 2.25 to tighten. So I'm going to take a dart of 1.25 on this area. Then when I get to this side, I'm taking a dart of 0.75 on this area. Then on this side, I will take 0.25. So let's do that. So on this side, I'll mark 1 inch on both sides. 1.15 here, and then 1.15 here. So by the time I'm done, when I measure it totally, I have 1.25, right? So this is my 1.25 dots here. Sorry, that's 2.5, not 1 point. So I have 1.25. I'm going to divide 1.25 by 2. Sorry about that. Then I'm going to be inserting half of it here, and the second half here. So this is it. I have 1.25 here and here. Now on this side, I'm taking a dart of 0.7. So I'm going to be dividing 0.7 in half. 0.75. Sorry. So I'm going to mark it here and here, right? So I'm marking 0.25 on this side like this, right? So this is, we have our dart here. Let me clean this side so that you see the dart properly. So this point and this point are our dart legs, this one here and this one here. But we're not drawing our darts yet. Now we'll now come to our underbust, right? On the underbust, I'm going to measure what I have left here. I have 11 inches. So I'm going to calculate 11 divide by 3, because it's 3 style lines, which are eventually going to be 5 style lines. So I have 3.6. So I'm going to mark 3.6 here. I'm marking 3.6 here, and then 3.6 here, right? Guys, this looks complicated, but it's not at all. So I'm going to connect these middle points, that's to here. So I'm connecting here to here like so, and I'm connecting here to here. Now your lines must not be straight. In fact, it's most likely not going to be straight. So I'm going to do the tightening of my underbust. So I'll come back to my measurements, right? Let me clean this side that I did this calculus here. So I'm done with my affluence. So I'm just going to tick, or let me just clean my affluence points, because I'm done with my affluence, right? So my underbust is 37. Divide by 2 is 18.5. Divide by another 2, because of we're working on 1/4 of the body, is 9.25. So what I want to get now is 9.25. So I'm going to measure that underbust. I have 11 inches. So I'm going to do 11 minus 9. 11 minus 9.25, right? It's because of these things I told you need a calculator. So I'm going to do 11 minus 9.25. I have 1.75. So I'm going to tighten by 1.75, right? Now for me to tighten by 1.75, I'm going to, because this side again, just like we did here, carries the largest part of the bust, we are going to put the largest number here, then we'll put a smaller number here, then a more carrying the largest side. I'm going to put 1 here, then I put 0.5 here, then I put 0.25 here. So now to put 1 here, I'm putting half here, then half here, right? Then on this side I'm putting 0.25 and 0.25, like so here, so making a total of half. Then here we have 1, and then I'm putting 0.25 here. I'm putting 0.25 here, right? So now this is what we are going to do on this side. Let me connect this dart so that you don't mistake it as if there is no dart here. So I'm going to draw here. So I'm ruling this side towards the hip line. I'm just going to dissolve here towards the hip, like so, right? So I'm going to be cancelling here because I don't need this dart this side again, like so. I'm cancelling here. Now I'm going to come over here, and then I continue, because okay, this is it about the tightening on the underbust. Now let's go to the bust side. For the bust, we are going to measure what we have here on the bust is 11 as well. So we are going to do 11 divided by 3 to give us our style lines is 3.6. So I'm marking 3.6, like so, 3.6 here, then another 3.6 here, like so. So I'm going to connect this point again to this side, right? Then I'll extend my line as well to this side, right? Now also for this point, this side now I'm going to connect it to the bust, right? Now we don't need to tighten the bust area. Like I said, the tightening that we are doing is only on the waist or the tummy area, right? So which is our underbust and our affluence, and then going towards the hip side. So for the bust, we are not tightening the bust, right? So now at this point, you're going to grab your French curve. So I'm using this side of my pattern master. So I'm going to connect my dart legs totally. No, let me even use the ruler part. I'm connecting the dart from my affluence to my underbust using my ruler, right? So I'm connecting my dart legs like so. Your dart legs are definitely not going to be looking straight like the regular dart legs. So I'm connecting them like so, right? So I'm going to cancel this other dart here because I've connected that, so we don't need this dart anymore. So from my affluence to my bust, I'm using my French curve to connect it. See how I placed my French curve, right? So I'm going to curve it to my bust like so. Sorry for that line, the curve, the ruler shifted. So I'm going to connect this side also. Just find a way that you can just obviously see that there's a proper connection. So I've connected that point. Now I'm going to connect this point also. It's very important to use your curves at this point, because that would determine what your blouse will look like. You really don't want to use ruler around here. So I'm not really done with this dart, but I have my dart, so I'm just cancelling that. I want you to be able to understand what I'm doing properly. So now we are going to tighten our chest area as well, so that it will give us that curvy look around the bust region. So for the chest area, we said we want our chest to be 39 at the end of the day. So what do we have here, right? We have 11 as well. Divide by 3 is going to be 11 divided by 3 will be 3.6. So we are marking our 3.6 here, right? So now I'm going to be connecting to bust line. connecting like so, and I'm connecting like so, right? Now I'm going to tighten my chest. 39 divided by 4, I have 9.75. So I'm doing 11 minus 9.75. So 11 minus 9.75 is giving me 1.25 equals to 1.25, right? So I'm going to be tightening my chest. In fact, I want this chest to be tighter than 39. So, but let's use the 1.25, right? So on this side, we are going to be subtracting 0.25. We are taking out 0.25. We are tightening by 0.25 here, and then we are left with 1.5. So on this side, just like we did, the dart here is usually bigger. I'm tightening by 1 inch. So I'm going to do 1 inch here, a half inch here, half inch here. So I have 1 inch. Then on this side, I'm doing 0.5, which is 0.25 here, 0.25 here, right? So now I'm going to connect using my curve. Also, I'm going to be connecting, sorry guys. So using my curve, I'm going to be connecting like so to my bust point. I'm connecting it to my bust point. Right? Then I'm connecting this side also. And then this side, right? Then I'm going to be connecting this other side as well. So if you also feel like you need to tighten more, then you go ahead and tighten more, right? But I'm going to leave this like this for now. So at this point, I'm going to insert the neckline that I want. Now there are so many ways to insert your neckline, because this is the most difficult thing, right? This is the most difficult thing which we've completed. Now for my neckline, I can decide to do a straight neckline on my chest like this. I can decide to do a sweetheart neck, which will look depending on how you want it, it can look like this, right? Or a straight neck like this. You can do any neckline you want. This is it. If I want a sweetheart neck, I'll just go ahead and mark it like so, right? Then I'll open this dart more. I'll just extend this dart like so, right? But I want a straight neckline across my chest, so I'm not going to be doing that. So but if you want your sweetheart neck, fine, you can go ahead and do that now. But I want this straight neckline. That's what I'm going to be using. Or I'm just going to have a very subtle sweetheart. Let me just do a very subtle sweetheart like so. So when I draw that by hand, I would just go ahead and follow it with a ruler, with my curve, to just give me that subtle shape, which will still look like the regular. It still looks like the regular neckline, right? So I'm just going to extend my dart like so, like so, like so. So any neckline of your choice, you can go ahead and do my lines like this, right? Now for the final amendments, I'm going to extend this one as well, right? Then I'll cancel this dot here, like so. So for the final modifications, I'm going to measure here. I'm using my centimeter this time around. I'll measure from here to my bust point and check what do I have, 9 centimeter. Then I'll bring my 9 centimeter as well to measure this other line to see. So it's still 9 centimeter, which is okay. I'll come and do the same thing here. I'll measure this line here to my bust. I have 10.2 centimeter. Then I'll measure this one to see if it's 10.2 centimeter. So you can see that this side is not up to 10.2 centimeter, which I will extend this other side. Then I will extend it, right? So that by the time I'm joining everything with our line, then I'll just gently curve this side like this. So this is it. If you're doing a sweetheart neckline, you're most definitely going to have this problem a lot. So go ahead and bring that out. So now on the lower side, it's pretty much easy, right? I'm going to determine now what kind of, do I want to draw it straight or slanted? It doesn't matter. So let me do slanted so that some people will not be like, it's only straight you taught us. So I'm doing it straight like this. I'm just going to be connecting that point straight. Then I'll connect this dot, extend the dot like so, like so. So there is nothing much on this side or the hem side. Is just to connect your lines depending on how you want them. So I'm just going to connect them like so, right? Then never ever forget to label your pattern. I feel like this side is much. Let me readjust this one. But you can leave it like this, it's fine, depends on what you want. But I don't like the shape, so I'm going to readjust, making the curve very subtle. Yeah, this one works for me like this. So I'm going to label this pattern now. I'm going to put my grain line so that I know what side. Then I'm going to label here center front, which I'm going to label it 1. Then I'm labeling this next one middle front, which I'm going to label it 2. Then I add my grain line so that it will help me know which side is the upper part of my pattern and which side is the lower part of my pattern. So I'm going to do the same thing here, right? Then side front, which I'll label 3, right? So this is it about our front blog. Now I'm coming over to do the back blog, right? So I'm just going to extend this line so that I'm just extending these lines. So as you can see, I've extended my lines, right? Now I'm just going to mark a point to help me. I'm just ruling here as a starting point for my back panel. So I'm just going to square this point out, right? So this will be, I'm going to cancel here. So this will be my starting line for my back, right? I'm not going to be adding any zip allowance. If you want to use zip, go ahead and do so. I'm going to be lacing my own panel, so I don't need zip allowance. But if you want any zip allowance, feel free to go ahead and use that. So this is my chest line. I'm labeling my lines here again. Chest line, I'll label it CL. Then for my bust line, I'm labeling it BL. Then under bust line, UBL. then affluence line, then AL, then my hip line, which is HL, right? Now, just like I did on my chest line, is my bust measurement divide by 4, which is 11, right? Then on my affluence is my affluence measurement divide by 4, which is 10, right? I have 10 here. So now I'm going to add my 1 inch dart. I just want 1 inch of that at the back. I don't want too much dart. Then I'm going to be doing the hip measurement divide by 4, which is 12, right? Now I'm going to connect those points like so. I'm connecting my points. I'm connecting my points like so, right? Now back to my tightening. Just like I tightened my front, is the same way I'm going to be tightening this back sides, right? So for the affluence part on the back, our affluence measurement is going to be 36 divided by 4, right? So I have 36 divided by 4 is equals to 9, right? So when I measure here is 11 inches. I have 11 inches here. So 11 minus 9 is 2 inches. So I need 2 inches to tighten. So I'm going to remove 0.75 here, just like I did to the front. I'm removing that point also. Then I'm going to help me shape out this pattern correctly, right? So I'm marking that point like so. So I'm done with this side. So I'm just going to be cancelling this one like so, right? So I'll now measure what I have left and divide it by 3. So I have 10.25, right? So I'm going to do 10.25 divided by 3 style lines. That's 3.4. So I'm marking 3.4 here and 3.4 here, like so. So this is it. I'm going to come to my, now I have 3.4 here, 3.4 here. So because I took out 0.75 here, is I have out of that 2 inches of that I need to take out here, I've taken out 0.75, so I'm left with 1.25, right? So I'm going to determine how I'm going to spread that. So on the back line here, I'm going to divide that into 3 equal parts, right? So 1.25 divided by 3. So I have 0.4, right? So I'm going to spread 0.4 across the 3 sides. So I'm marking 0.4 here on this side of the back, 0.4 on this side. I'm going to spread 0.4 in 2 places here. So I'm marking 0.4 here, 0.2 here. Then this side as well, I'm doing 0.2, right? So now the reason why the back one we're spreading it equally is because there is no need, we don't have the bust at the back, right? So I'm just going to connect here like this, right? So I'm coming to my underbust, right? So for the underbust, we can go ahead to be dividing the same thing, which will still be fine, but there's no need to do that. I'm just coming over to my chest line to do that of my chest. So for the chest I have 11 inches, right? So 11 divided by 3, I have 3.6, like so, 3.6, like so, right? So I'm going to connect that to the midpoint of this dart here. I'm connecting this one as well. So now for the chest, we want it to be 9.75. So it's going to be 11 minus 9.75. So we have 1.25 tightening. So we are going to divide that 1.25 divide by 3. So we have 0.4 as well, right? So we are going to do, now we are going to do 0.4 on, we are going to do it on two sides. For the back, we are not going to do it on this side. We are going to do it on two sides, right? So we are doing, sorry, we are even supposed to divide that 1.25 by 2, not by 3. We are dividing that 0.6. So we are spreading 0.6 here, 0.3 here, 0.3 here, then I have 0.3, 0.3 here, right? So I'm going to connect to this point here. I'm connecting that 0.3 to this point that I have here. So I'm connecting this one here. This one here. This one here. So now I'm going to be cancelling my darts. So I don't need this dart anymore. Like so. And then this one as well. Don't need it anymore. This one as well, I don't need it anymore, right? So just like we did to the front, you just determine how we want the back lines to be. Then we just do like, you just connect it to the shape you want. You can do straight, you can do it curved, you can do slanted lines, whatever your choice may be is totally fine, right? So I'm going to label my patterns now. I'm going to label this side center back, which is 1. You can continue, you can do center back with and label it 4 to continue from what you have at the front, but I prefer to have it this way. Then I have middle back, which is 2. Then I have side back, which is 3. Then I'm going to be drawing my grain line and making my arrow to help me know which side is the upper side of my pattern, right? Like so. Now one would think we are done from here, but we are not. Now there are 2 things I want to do on the back. So you can see where our style line came in on the front, on the armhole, right? I have around 0.4 inches deep here. So I'm coming to this side as well to mark that 0.4 inches, like so. Now to my armhole, I don't want my back neckline to be straight. I want it slanted, right? So I'm going to measure maybe let's do 2.5 inches depth. Then I'm going to connect it to this point here like this. I'm connecting here like this, so this side ceases to be relevant. This is now my new back neckline, right? And then for the last thing I want to do is to bax my corset. So I want it baxed. When I mean baxed, I don't want the hem to be straight. I want it to be like sort of a V shape or curved like this. So this is actually a bonus point to say this is also a way to make bags corsets. So from this affluence point, from my affluence point here, right, I'm going to come down like this, or you can come down, it doesn't matter. Let me just come down a little like so. Then I can decide to use my French curve to just shape my corset like this, so this side ceases to be relevant. Then I'm going to do the same thing from my affluence. I'm going to measure how long I came down. So I came down around 0.7, so I'm going to do the same thing here, 0.7 as well. Then I'll bax the back of my corset as well. You can do any shape you like, zigzag, straight, any shape you like. So at this point my corset is baxed. So this is it about our corset, right? Our Victorian corset, the Natalie Bray method. So this is it about it. Now if you like, you can draft in a covering for the back of your corset, or you create an extension for your eyelet, but there's no need for that. You can just go ahead and insert your eyelet on. So guys, this is it about our corset, our Victorian corset, the Natalie Bray method. If you enjoyed this video or you find it helpful, please give me a thumbs up. Share this video with your friends so that they can also learn how to do this, and it will help me as well. If you have any questions or anywhere you're not clear, comment your questions below. I'll be readily available to answer you there. And hit the subscribe button. And also, when you do recreate this, make sure to tag me on all your recreations on Instagram, James. I'll be so glad to see all your creations. So in another video, I'm going to be showing you how to convert this corset into blouse. So many types of blouses, that there are so many things you can do with these, guys. So till then, see you in my next video, guys. Bye.